Yeah, I think she had told us like we should certainly hear the heartbeat the next week you come in.
Yeah.
And
Nothing.
and there was no heartbeat. Yeah. We after the two chemical pregnancies and then that second miscarriage. I remember this like very emotional moment that we kind of had together. It was Super Bowl
Oh gosh.
of Super Bowl of 2023,
Mm-hmm.
and we had decided to go to Buffalo Wild Wings. And I think at this point, like I had kind of let out my emotions of that second miscarriage, and I was I was kind of waiting for her to release a little bit more of her emotions, but she had kind of been like,
I hadn't cried or anything.
yeah,
I'm like, I think I feel better this time around because the first time I lost it and I was like depressed. I had no joy, and especially because I wasn't really speaking to anyone.
mm-hmm,
The only person I was talking to was Josh, and I remember his sister and mom knew, and I talked to them a little bit, but not enough. And I was basically going on this whole journey by myself.
yeah. I remember one of the ways she was trying to cope was by going on TikTok and just like looking to see other people's experiences,
Yeah.
right? Just so that you felt like you weren't
They
alone.
gave me
in
hope,
this.
like TikTok and YouTube. Like there were a lot of like stories of women getting pregnant, so that like they gave me some hope, even though I still feel like I'm stuck. Like, you know.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, up until Super Bowl of 2023, I had felt like, okay, I've let out a bunch of my emotions based on what we had just experienced, but I felt like she was kind of like either suppressing or kind of holding back a lot of her emotion, and so on that same day of Super Bowl, we ended up going to Buffalo Wild Wings, and we were having a good time, like having drinks and
Yeah,
having
now I can
wings.
start drinking again.
Yeah, and so come halftime show, Rihanna comes on and she starts singing "Shine Bright Like a Diamond," and then all of a sudden, like she has a breakdown, like right there in the middle of the restaurant,
Yeah.
and
I
like
just couldn't hold it in as soon as she's like, shine bright like an oh gosh. Like,
it was like a flood of emotions just like hit her at that very moment,
all at
and
once. Like,
yeah, and so I immediately knew, I'm like, oh shoot, I need to pay for the check and we need to get the heck out of here.
and I was so like bummed because I'm like, I still had like this much of beer and then, like I need to finish it even though I was like already so drunk.
Yeah. So yeah, we ended up. I ended up, driving us home, and we came into our apartment here, and then we went straight into the bedroom, and then she kind of like.
I think I went to the bathroom and then I was like in the bathroom crying
Mm-hmm.
or in the little.
Yeah, there's a little like hallway between our bedroom and the bathroom, and then she kind of like just dropped down there and like in that little hallway. And I remember just going to her and like I was holding her and we both were just like kind of bawling, like we were just like crying and
I think I was there for like an hour just crying.
Yeah.
I just couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop.
yeah, it was it was like for sure the most emotional I've ever.
There was, I think,
ever seen
more. I cried more than the first miscarriage, which I
Mhm.
thought I was doing better the second time around, but I don't know, maybe the beer and margaritas have something to do with it.
Less inhibition, so you can just like release everything.
Yeah, like, but after that, I was good.
Yeah, I think after that, she continued on with your process with the fertility doctor, and that led to this pregnancy. We're pregnant. She's
I think they already saw them.
yeah. Yeah. We never said anything, but like, yeah, she's 31 weeks now.
But it didn't happen easy, you know.
Yeah.
I was taking like I dove into research of like supplements of how to mature your eggs, of stuff that he could drink, that I could drink. I gave him like much.
There was like maca root. There was like pills. There was
pills.
a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Then I was tracking everything, and we ended up. Our fertility doctor gave us Clomid, which I hope you guys know because I can't even think of
what Clomid is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
we can write a little description what Clomid is.
Yeah, we can do that in the.
But she gave me letrozole first, and I mistracked my fertile window and didn't get pregnant. The next time, Clomid, but for some reason, that one cycle, I didn't get my period. And I'm like, because I was diagnosed with PCOS, and I never had any symptom. Like, for me, I always had everything normal, never cramping. Like, my period was always on time. So I'm like, oh, maybe this is a symptom of PCOS. So then they gave me Clomid, but I think I already had ovulated. So that Clomid was a waste of time. So the next cycle, we did Clomid again. And
you're tracking. You had been tracking a little bit closer your fertile
which
window.
I was like getting stressed because I'm like, I'm supposed to be starting my fertile window, but I guess Clomid messes it up. So I started later my fertile window, and which is weird because I actually, after I saw like the discharge when you started your fertile window, and I went to get my follicles checked, the doctor's like, oh, there's no follicles. That must have been like,
because you had already.
Yeah, I'm like, what? But I just started my fertile window. I don't get it.
Yeah.
So we had actually tried the day before, and that day, and then we went the next day, and she told us, yep, you did ovulate. So start in the next 3 days or 2 days, start taking your progesterone, which I feel like this time I took it sooner, which I feel was the reason I did end up getting pregnant. Because the other time I started once I already I was supposed to get my period, which in a lot of cases they say it's already too late. So for me, I took it 2 days after ovulation. Or 3 days after ovulation. And I started taking the progesterone, and 2 weeks later, I started testing, and I saw the faintest line, and we obviously did the blood test, and there it was. We were pregnant.
But so, how did all of the past experiences that we had, like, how did that affect kind of how we felt about this pregnancy in the beginning?
Well, this one I was more prepared, especially because we did have at least I had 2 surgeries after my 2 miscarriages. So I think I was diagnosed with, what's it called?
It was where they had to kind of do another procedure, right? Where
to clean me out because I had like scar tissue from my miscarriages, which can also prevent you from getting pregnant. Or if you do get pregnant, it's just like they prefer you to have not endometriosis, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I think that's what it was. I can't believe you remembered that. Endometriosis, yeah.
Yeah. So like I was diagnosed with endometriosis.
Endometriosis.
So they had to do like a procedure, which was painful, by the way. So after that, I'm like, I had more hope, like, oh, I don't have the scar tissue. They cleaned me out. And then they helped me with like the Clomid. So that's supposed to give you more chances of getting pregnant. And they were following 3 follicles, which I was like, oh, I hope. That was kind of scary to know, but I'm like, at this point, I don't care.
Like, could you imagine if all 3 got fertilized? We're having like triplets? That'd be crazy.
Yeah, that's how people end up with multiples when they take Clomid. Which a lot of people want to take Clomid when they're having issues.
So the original question, going back to the original question, was like, how did we feel about the beginning of finding out that we were pregnant with this pregnancy, based on all of the experiences that we had?
I had more hope this
Yeah.
time around.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since we were in the hands of our fertility doctor, and she did all these tests, and she was checking my progesterone, she was checking my blood for anything weird.
Mm-hmm.
So that gave me hope.
I remember that even though like we had a little bit of hope, I think we were still very guarded
Well, yeah.
because of, you know, everything that had happened prior to finding out that we were pregnant again.
So for me, like, I still didn't want to get my hopes up.
Mm-hmm.
And every week we went in at 5 weeks again. Everything, well, not everything. They said remember what they said?
So the first thing was that her gestational sac
Looked too large.
was abnormally shaped. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't textbook.
Yeah, it wasn't a textbook gestational sac.
Yeah. So that's something that she was worried about.
So that was, for me, that was a little bit like discouraging, like, oh shoot, like we're gonna have another miscarriage. I didn't say anything at the time, I don't think, but it was discouraging
So
for
I'm
me.
like, here we go again, another problem.
Yeah.
And we were going with our appointments. They were like checking me more, and I think we only saw our regular fertility doctor because another one was subbing, Dr. Andrea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for her, she didn't know my history, so for her, she was kind of like, it wasn't the same, but
She was doing everything like kind of nonchalantly, like,
Yeah.
like, oh, you know, we're gonna check you, like you're pregnant, like blah blah blah, and yeah, without her having any history, like she wasn't like she wasn't sensitive to like our experiences that we had. So she was just kind of treating us like any other like patients that would more than likely be excited about where they are. But yeah, so
she was still like also like, oh, it still does look abnormal, your gestational sac. And then just on the 6th week, she's like, well, let's go check on the heartbeat. And for us, we were obviously not expecting, and we were like, oh, here it goes. This is when they tell us, this is where they tell us that
it's
another miscarriage.
It's gonna be a miscarriage.
And she's like, let's check on the heartbeat. And then she's like, boop, boop, boop.
It was loud. It was very loud. It took us by surprise for sure. It was like that, you know, that typical heartbeat that you hear like dun 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 dun. And yeah, we were completely shocked.
I looked at him and he's looking at the screen and I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. Like, we had no words. And obviously she didn't know what we've been through. So
yeah,
she was like, oh, it's like a normal heartbeat. Like, come back next week.
Yeah. And I don't think we reacted in the moment of like what the heck? Like we were kind of just like in shock. We were like quiet.
Because we never got to that point with the previous pregnancies.
And so it wasn't until afterwards that we were like, that was crazy, right? We're like, yeah, it was crazy.
But still, I didn't want to get my hopes up because
still guarded.
I know how I was getting my hopes up and then hearing the news like, oh, there's another miscarriage. It's going to be devastating. So I was still like, okay. So the weeks went on and on and on. And we still were getting that, oh, your gestational sac looks abnormal. That's the only issue. And then they saw like there was clot and that can also cause a miscarriage. Yeah. So like every week we were just like
I feel like in the beginning it was like each week there was like something, like it was like a new issue coming up, and each issue was giving us a reason like not to get excited, to kind of stay guarded. And
I think once we got to our 8th week, she told us to schedule an appointment with our OB because it can take longer to get an appointment. So we scheduled it for 9 weeks.
I think so, yeah.
I think Josh had started his new job, so he couldn't go to the appointment. But I went, and you can see the little baby's feet, and it was more clear. I'm like, oh. And this time they didn't do it vaginally; they did it on your stomach, which I had never done. I'm like, oh my god, like this is a new experience for me. And to hear the heartbeat and then seeing the little image of the little baby or fetus, I don't know.
Little baby, yeah.
Yeah. It was very magical. And then I saw my OB, and they were gonna do the
There was like a test that they had to do, and that test would basically determine like if this test comes back negative, which is good in medical terms. If it comes back negative, then it's very likely that this baby will go to full term. And I remember like wanting to hear what the results were. Yeah.
and it was also supposed to tell us the gender.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I remember very like vividly being in the office when she called me and she gave me the news. I was sitting there and I was in a meeting with the manager that I was working with, and I was waiting for her call. And the manager that I was working with, he knew that I was waiting for her call, and so the phone starts ringing, and I tell him, "Hey, it's my wife," and he's like, "Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up." And so I picked it up and walked away from my computer, and then that's when she had told me like, "Hey, we got the report back, and they told me that it came out negative." And like right then and there, I just started crying. I was crying from like I was crying
It was
from
funny
happiness.
because I was driving home and he told me to call him. He said, "Can I call you?" I'm like, okay. So I was like going like, so they wanted to share the gender, and I told him like my husband's not here. So she's like, so you don't want to know about the gender? I'm like, no. So then I was telling him. So they told me the results, and it came out negative.
Mm-hmm.
And then all I hear is like, so crying.
And I was like, really? like a cracked voice.
And then I'm like, are you crying?
I was like, no. But yeah, I broke down there. Like I was so happy. And even talking about it now, I get a little bit teary-eyed. But
That was like the best news we've heard since
everything we had been through.
Yeah, because every week we were getting the same thing. Bad news, bad news.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next following week, I went to my fertility doctor, and she did the same, an ultrasound, and she's like, everything looks good, like your blood clots are gone, they dissolved, because that was something she was concerned about, because if they grew any bigger, that could cause a miscarriage or issues. But that week, I think I graduated from a fertility doctor, which was a huge milestone for us.
Yeah.
They gave us like a little onesie, and it was
super exciting.
Yeah.
Super exciting.
And at that time, I think I already had told a few friends, so I was more comfortable talking to them and sharing these news, and I was so happy. And since then, we got good news, and we're 31 weeks now.
Everything's been tracking really great. Every time we visited the doctor, she said like, yeah, everything's looking good. Like all your levels that they check for whatever they check has been good, and and so it's been really exciting. Like we're ready. Like I think I remember reading a book that the receptionist from the old job that I used to work at, where she's still working, she gave us these books on like preparing for becoming parents. And I remember reading like after I want to say it was like week 28 or 20, I want to say, or 26. Like basically like it says after this point, like it's 96%, like even if the baby were to come out now, like 96% chance that they survive. And I remember like once we reached that, like it started to feel a little bit more real.
Well, for me, it was like feeling him move. Oh, by the way, it's a boy.
Yeah. Feeling him move is like amazing.
He's moving right now. Because we're talking.
But yeah, so I think this is like kind of a good spot to end on for this first video.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just in kind of opening up about the fact that we had gone through these miscarriages is it's been an eye opener for us, because once we got comfortable kind of sharing with some of our friends, we ended up finding out that like some of our friends and some of like friends of those friends, like they had been through miscarriages as well, and it's just people don't talk about it. It's like it's an incredibly emotional and personal thing to go through, and I think in opening up about it and like giving other people hope that it still can happen despite despite the odds, despite the adversity that you go through. That's one of the things we want to kind of share with all of you, is that
Because yeah, we wanted to do it sooner, but it still had like, I don't know why, if something goes wrong and then we have all of this footage, and then
yeah,
but even then, so like I've seen videos of women going through miscarriages and sharing their story, and I see them as strong women, and if they do end up getting pregnant, like giving hope for us being in this fertility journey.
yeah.
So I wanted to give some hope to women, and hopefully some women are going through what I'm going through, because everybody is different.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully I could help one or two and give them hope that there is like a light
At
at
the
the
end
end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it for this one. We're gonna continue recording and like kind of recording our journey, up until the baby gets here, and then I think the plan is to kind of document all the things that we go through when the baby's finally here. And I personally know that everything that we have been through up to this point is gonna I think it's gonna change our perspective on like those moments when we're extremely exhausted, but like just knowing what we had been through, I think it's gonna give us that extra like kind of push to like get through those tough moments in the beginning. But yeah, we're hoping to share all of that with you guys as much as we can. But yeah,
It is our journey.
it is our journey. Until next time, we'll see you guys.